5:30 Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. Call to order the Cotuit Fire District Board of Fire Commissioners meeting. Present Commissioner Pisano,
Commissioner Conley,
Commissioner Zace.
Chief Root?
very good. Oh, Chief, are you recording this so that we can just post it?
Yes.
Good. Public comment. Do we have anybody from the public here that wants to comment? All I see is the station ceiling. Okay, no public comment. Next item is to review and approve previous meeting minutes. I've had a chance to review the March minutes. How about you, Adam and Kevin?
Yeah, I've reviewed them. It's an interesting new format. Very easy to read.
Good.
and I am good with the minutes.
Yeah, good. I am as well. That's
Very
what
good.
happened.
Move to accept the minutes as presented. In
Second,
favor, Pisano.
Conley,
Zace.
Okay. Fire chief's report. Chief, you got the stage.
No, it's too loud.
Sure.
So we're getting a lot of feedback from the department. Someone should mute themselves unless.
Chief can mute them.
I
Can you
muted the
mute?
fire department radios. There.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Everybody should be muted except for the commissioners and myself.
Okay. We'll see how that goes.
Thank you.
Should I mute the commissioners while I give a report?
No,
yeah,
it's
make it a little easier.
yeah.
I'll mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. It's whatever feedback's gone now. All right, fire chief's report. Month of March, there were 52 total calls, 34 medicals, 18 service, good intent, false alarm. We were down about 20% for the same time last year. Administration, as far as personal protective equipment, the report says we had a 1 month supply. In conversations with the other fire departments on Cape Cod, everybody was about the same. Yesterday, we had a delivery from MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. They came through with 300 N95s, I think it was about 100 surgical masks, and a case of disinfectant gel. So we're doing really well on PPE.
Chief, what does that change your supply to? How does that affect you?
So we had about 50 N95s on order. 50 N95s in-house. Now we've got about 350. We were reusing N95s. We would issue them, and people would wear them with a covering until they became soiled. Now we can use them as designed, and one-time use, one patient dispose of them.
Cool.
So big change. We're hoping the supply chain's been fixed, and this is the way we're going to continue to go forward with PPEs.
Very cool. Thank you.
Administration of COVID-19 preventive measures. We're having the station fogged once a week. So we've got an outside contractor that comes in. They use a antiviral non-toxic chemical that they fog the station with, including all the apparatus. We had the 2nd and the 10th, I believe. We've ordered equipment so we can do it ourselves. The fogging machine is about $400. The chemical is about $100. So the machine should be in within 3 or 4 days, and we'll be able to do that on our own going forward.
Chief, I'm still having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Yeah,
Can you, up
it
your volume?
appears that it's coming from Kevin's feed.
Kevin is muted now.
Yeah, but that goes. So there's some transmission that's coming
Okay.
through him.
Okay,
So,
it's good now. I think everybody hears me. So, all right. So other preventive measures, as you guys saw last month, we have a new SOP in place that we put in place where we dropped to 3 groups. And the whole intention of that was to have 3 separate work groups that never contacted each other. So no overtime personnel in one group working from another group where they were transferred, no standby personnel where they could introduce it to a separate group. If we lost a group, we would lose one group and not the whole department. That was updated on Friday. So many of the departments around us went to a requirement to wear a mask on duty. CDC made the recommendation, I think on last week, to go to a mask in public places. So we follow the other department's lead, and now we're requiring a mask, surgical or cloth mask, in any public part of the fire station. So unless they're alone in an office or a bedroom, they have to have a mask on, just to help prevent any type of transmission. So that was an update that was just on Friday.
How's that working, Chief?
It's you know, it's kind of, it takes some getting used to, but it seems to be working. Nobody's sick, which is the positive. Sandwich Fire lost, I think they were down like 13, over a third of their department. They had one firefighter that came in with a known exposure, and contaminated or was tested positive and came into contact with 10 of their other staff. So at one point in time, they had about 13 firefighters out of work. New CDC regulations allow staff to work with an unprotected exposure as long as they're wearing an N95. So they were able to bring most of the personnel back, but it was kind of a big deal. So it was kind of a wake-up call to all of us to say, you know, we need to go a little further. So we went the extra step to require masks 24/7 anytime they're in contact or in a public space with any other firefighter. So it's working. They're following the instruction, and nobody's sick. And, you know, knock on wood, and you know, that could change it at any day. But we're doing the best we can to keep operating under this new environment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Regional capacity, like I said, we've got weekly meetings with all the other fire departments on the Cape, as well as public health departments and public safety. Everybody in the Cape's about the same position we are. They've all got at least a month's worth of PPE. Everybody is down on call volume. People are doing the right thing. They're social distancing. They don't want to go to the hospital. They're, you know, to an extreme. So we're down on calls. Oops, sorry, ceiling. Zoom meetings. So we, given this new social distancing, we signed up for a Zoom account. We've shared that account with the rest of the committees in the district. So we're all using a single account, and that seems to be working pretty well. Pete Emerson's he's our tech guy now. So he's been helping us out with our social media. He's been helping us out with the Zoom accounts, and he's been working with the other committees too to help them out. So it's kind of a team effort. It seems to be working out pretty well so far. Community Zoom Facebook updates. So we're having weekly, with the exception of last night due to the power outages, we've had weekly community Zoom to Facebook to YouTube, whole new tech world for us, meetings. And this came from Commissioner Conley's suggestion. We really need to do a better job of communicating with the public and telling them what we're doing, what's going on. It's not enough for them to see CNN and know what's happening in New York. They need to know what's happening in Cotuit. So it's important. It's new. We're getting better at it. We're working on inviting new partners in the community, some businesses, libraries. It seems to be working out. So we're looking at increasing that and getting better at it. So that's a new media source for us.
Hey, Chief, excuse
Yes,
the
Commissioner.
background, everybody. I'll mute myself once I go back. I think you guys have done a great job with that. And I think the comments and the amount of views, you know, been very well received as far as I see it in the community. So thank you very much for that, the effort.
Well, thank you for the suggestion. It's worked out well. Hasn't
On
always
that
been
same vein, Chief, I'd like to just say what I wrote to the the other two commissioners just today about representing the Board of Commissioners at that meeting. And I'll be happy to step aside on that and allow the two of you to just coordinate alternating with it when you're available, sort it out between the two of you. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, Chief, I'll do next Mondays, assuming that we don't have another storm.
Okay, sounds good. Fortunately, we didn't have a lot to report this week. It's
Yeah, it's okay.
been fairly stable, so knock on wood. So, but it's also about us hopefully getting information from the community and seeing what needs there are out there that we don't see through our, the information we're getting. So it's meant to be a two-way channel for communication. Training, U.S. Coast Guard, the boat training was canceled. Obviously, pretty much all training for any organization in the probably close to the world has been canceled. So we're hoping that maybe happens again in the fall, or maybe it'll be a year from now. We've been doing we coordinated again with a counselor, mental health counselor that specializes in public safety. Her name is Heidi Wright. I put her under training because I'm kind of considered a mental health training. We focused on this a year ago, and it was, given the stresses that all of us are under, we thought it was important to kind of revisit this and make this resource available, renew the availability to the staff. So we've contracted with Heidi Wright to do a single session with each of the three groups, and then make her available and encourage connection between her and individuals on a private basis. And the hope is that as a group, they will, talk about ways to recognize PTSD in their fellow staff, and maybe ways to help support their families. And in private, they may bring up other issues that help them deal with this crazy world we're all in right now. So that's been going on. We've had two of the groups. No, I'm sorry. One of the groups was supposed to go yesterday, but they actually had a COVID call during the meeting, so they rescheduled for later in the week. I've got positive feedback so far from the guys, so I'm hoping it makes a difference. So we have that going on. The Pro EMS. Sorry, go ahead.
Before we go on the item above, did we get any feedback? And this is directed to you, Kevin, and to the chief, about the letter that was sent to Mashpee about mutual aid.
I didn't.
Go ahead, Chief. You go first.
I've gotten no feedback. I meant to put that under administration, and I neglected to put it on there. We've done 0 mutual aid to Mashpee in the last month, and they've come to us 0 as well. And I've had no feedback. We just came from a call. We had a reported overturned boat off of the Spit, Papaneset Bay entrance. We responded. Mashpee Fire receives the data the same as we do through Barnstable County, so they also responded. It became evident that it was more a call in Cotuit than Mashpee, and they switched over to our frequency, and we worked absolutely fine together. There was no problems, coordinated and communicated effectively. It was just dredging equipment. There was no emergency, but no, I've got no official response from any communication with them.
And I did not receive a response back to the email I had sent to the town. So my intent, frankly, in this conversation is we'll revisit it as we move forward after COVID-19 has slowed down a little bit. Would be my suggestion.
Good, thank you.
Pro EMS support was attached. Personnel, the 2 new hires, firefighter Eric Kenzel started on Friday, and firefighter paramedic Scott Melanson started today. No issues either one. They're working out great. And then we've got a call firefighter that we've hired, firefighter Brian Molesky. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. He's also works full-time for Barnstable DPW. He's certified firefighter 1, firefighter 2 through Texas A&M University. He's finishing up his paramedic training. Known by several of our other staff, know him from outside of work. We put him on the call department just to start building up some resources in case we needed anybody. So he's picked up gear, and other than that, we really aren't doing any type of orientation or training unless it becomes an emergency where we have to bring him in. So, but he'll be hopefully a future resource for us. Apparatus, we've still got the outstanding capital request for the chief and deputy vehicle, which I'm sure we'll get to under budget. Nothing new to report on that. Facilities station renovation is on hold for many reasons. And lastly, on the report from me is Cotuit Historical Association. They made contact with us and made two requests. One, that we provide an ambulance and or an engine to their Strawberry Festival in June, I think it is. And we've always provided a resource. On-duty crew goes down and participates in, public image and just participates in the event. And the second request was to assist with flags on Main Street and School Street. So they had a private contractor that had donated their time to help them put up flags that we have on Main Street and School Street in Cotuit, and they had some problems with the contractor and needed some more resources and wanted to know if we could help. I've talked to the union; they're positive and support it. I would like to assist the Historical Association in putting the flags up in the spring and taking them down in the fall, and any type of maintenance that has to get done on a regular basis. It would be with the duty crew. It wouldn't be with overtime. There would be zero cost to the district. It would be considered a training type event with the ladder work. They aren't very high. Our insurance company has no issue with this. I've contacted them. And as far as the Strawberry Festival, we told them it depends on where we are with social distancing when that time comes. So we obviously want to support them, but it depends, whether we're still in a state of emergency, whether there's still restrictions on public gatherings and where we are. So that's kind of the up in the air type of thing. Any questions on that?
Well, let's hope this is I think it's great. Let's hope this is all over by the Strawberry Festival.
Kevin, I missed what your question was.
How many flags?
I don't know. I'm guessing a couple dozen, but I never counted. If anybody else have an idea?
No, I don't.
Why was that a question?
Because I was curious.
Okay. I was wondering if you're going to do some kind of calculation about cost per flag or something.
I think there's probably a couple dozen flags. I think it adds to the community charm. I think it's important. I think it's good PR for us. It would be done with on-duty staff as they had availability and time. I don't think there's a whole lot of downside for us. I think it's a good community.
So this is sort of related to Memorial Day and 4th of July and so forth. I think it's more than a couple of dozen, Chief.
Is it? Okay.
It just, it feels like, as I've driven down Main and school and whatnot, it seems like there's more, but well,
I don't have any problem with us getting involved in it. I think that it would be good PR.
I don't either. Yep.
Okay.
No issue on this side either.
And I'm certainly willing to work, off-duty time to help out with it too. And I'd be willing to bet that most of the union guys would be willing to help if it becomes necessary at other times too. So I think it's a good PR for all of us. So I'll give them that positive feedback that we'll do the best we can to support them with that, and we'll see how that goes.
Good. Chief, in terms of facilities, when I was reading the draft, or I guess it's no longer a draft, the final copy of the annual report for last year, I came back across the appropriation for facilities that is still on the books from last fiscal year. Do we still have, I don't know the current status of the accounting on that. Do you know offhand if we still have money in there?
The $100,000 facility article?
Yes.
Uh, yeah, so I believe we spent, I don't know the number in front of me. I believe we spent about $13,000 to redo the kitchen.
Right?
So we have the remainder, which would be about, $87,000
Right.
remaining in that account. So while the money's available to us and will be available for 4 more years, it hasn't been raised and appropriated. So there was some, Ray, given the whole COVID and the pandemic and financial instability in the markets, raising the money and issuing bonds to get that money became a very complicated issue for Ray. So I told him that we don't have the time right now to do the renovations, so that we weren't in a rush for the money. So the money hasn't been raised. They haven't sold bonds or raised the money, but we still have that funding available to us for the next 4 years.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the annual district meeting postponement. I don't know what degree of following you fellows have done, but a letter has been sent to the moderator asking him to make an announcement about postponement of the meeting. And I don't know that anybody has heard back about that. The Prudential Committee has already approved that action, but we don't have any particular date. It's going to be, my understanding, an open-ended postponement until we have the state of emergency lifted. Either of you know any more about it?
No, that's exactly what I've been tracking.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
The Prudential Committee met last week and they voted to ask the moderator to continue the meeting to June 24th. So June 24th would be the annual district meeting. June 23rd would be the elections. The new state law that was passed gives the moderator the ability to postpone it if the local public safety official deems the pandemic a threat to, I forget the wording, but there's some wording in the state law if it's a public health emergency. So I've been working with the moderator and the district's attorney, Mark Boudreau, to come up with language that I stated that this is a public health emergency and that the moderator will then extend the meeting, and then we have to file a report with the AG's office. So it's been, or will be very shortly, potentially rescheduled to the 24th, obviously, depending on where we are.
Right. And is it also confirmed that along with that, it's allowable to postpone the election?
They also voted to postpone the election dates, and trying to think, I think I wrote them down here somewhere. I don't have them in front of me. Maybe I have them over here. Sorry, I must have put them somewhere else. Yes, they voted to extend the dates for certification of signatures for elected offices. But I don't have the dates in front of me.
Okay, so they did vote basically to move the entire spring package.
They moved everything by almost 30 days, yes.
Okay, thank you. Under old business, we've already reviewed a good deal of the pandemic preparations. I don't know if you two have had a chance to see the projection curves that Chief sent around that were released by the county.
Yep. I read that this afternoon.
It looks like our good fortune in terms of dodging the worst of it may hold, which would be great. but it was encouraging to see that figure. Budget planning. You know that there is a lot of talk at the town level about budget adjustments, and we're going to be asked to look at that as well, or have been asked to look at that as well. I've already had some conversations with the chief about my position about it, but I would like to hear from both of you if you've had other conversations or thoughts about it in terms of the budget that we originally submitted to Prudential.
I was just looking at that this afternoon as well. Is there a way we can postpone the vehicles?
We always have the option at the annual meeting of withdrawing any
Proposed articles.
proposed article, right? And so we have a number of options. I mean, we could take it off the table early. We can leave it on the table and see where things are. And we can always take them off the table at the annual meeting. It would be one way to create some short-term saving. The circumstance for the deputy chief has a couple of options open. Chief and I were talking about that earlier. Chief, do you want to give them an update on our last conversation about it?
About the vehicles?
Vehicles, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we have the option of redoing the budget now and submitting a revised budget. We can certainly leave the vehicles as articles and pull them at the district meeting. We can do without the vehicles. We can make do and figure something else out.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of optics here. You know, everyone's, you know, the town is, and the, you all read the letter from Jim Danhauser, president of the Civic Association, and that might create some favor, put us in a better light, perhaps, relative to this. I mean, I don't know what else we can really do. Much of this is contractually obligated, yeah.
You're right. There's not a whole lot we can do. We can pull vehicles, and you know, it's a great time to finance vehicles because rates are pretty close to zero. But certainly for the optics of it, we can pull the vehicles and get by and figure that part out next year. We're going to be, we have been under a significant increased level of stress. We're being asked to do more and prepare at a higher level than we ever have.
I know. Yeah, it's not lost on all of us.
No, I understand that. It's going to be a very busy year, and equipment-wise, there's been increased expenses. To do the job with a lot less money for personnel or operations means we have to change what we do and reduce the services. We can't. There is no other way to do that.
All right.
We don't have a lot of flexibility in the budget for what to do. One proposal that I had floated with the chief that I will put forward now is, you know, we have in the budget a line item for reserves for injuries on duty that,
Right.
as you've seen in this past year, we took a real hit on, and we're scrambling to cover. So we, for the proposed budget, raise the amount. We can reduce it, making it very clear to the district at the meeting that we reduced it, fully recognizing that it may put us in a position where we have to come back to a special meeting during the year if we have anything like what we had this past year in terms of costs.
Right. So I mean, that appears to be the one of the dials that you could turn. What would that do, Chief? If I could probably do this myself, but
What number do you want
what
to
would
pick?
that do to the total fiscal year budget if, for example, you kept that level as from the last fiscal year?
Last fiscal year,
Which was 55, right?
right, and we raised it to 80,
80.
I believe.
Yeah, and I see the point. 8-year average is 75. But just for the sake of the example, what would that do to the 4.42% number?
We took 25,000 off.
Mm-hmm.
What did I say? It was 80,000 before. I had this all set ready to go, and now it's not playing nice. Try it over here. 1 second. So that drops our increase in our budget of 3.3%. That's without the added growth and property tax valuation increases. So we were already under the 2.5%. So let me do it back to what it was.
Chief,
What
you
percent?
said 3%,
It
but
was at 4.5% overall, and it dropped it to 3.1.
that I'm not done my own hand math here, but that sounds
Sorry, it dropped to the 3.3. It went from, what did I say, 4.5 to 3.3% increase in over last fiscal year.
with just a $25,000 reduction.
Yes. Now this
I thought it was going to be about a 0.3% reduction.
let me do it one more time. So
I may have had trouble carrying my zeros here.
the 80,000, the personnel was a 6.05% increase, and overall budget increase was 4.55. And if I change the 80 to 55, it goes to 4.57 for personnel, salaries and wages, and 3.31% for an overall budget increase.
The salary and wages, but not the overall budget of the department.
The overall budget for the department goes up by 3.31%. The salary and wages goes up by 4.57% with the lower number.
If you pull out that 25,000 sheet, right? I get that it affects salary and wages.
Yep.
What does it do to the overall budget? The overall budget of the department will come down something.
The overall budget goes from 4.5% to 3.3%.
I thought that was wages and salary, no?
No, that's the overall budget. Now, there's one other possibility. I had a conversation with EFIS, insurance company, and they said they didn't before, they now have a option in an insurance policy for the district that would cover the wages for somebody out on IOD. We've never purchased this policy before. It didn't exist, but it does now. So, and it also covers cancer as well. So if someone goes out on IOD for cancer or any other IOD, they would cover their wages as well as their medical expense. So
Is there a limit, and what does it cost?
I don't have those numbers, and I don't know I think it's not a one size fits all. It's designed for the department. They obviously want to make money, so I'm not saying it's going to be cheap. It may be cheaper to self-insure, but it insures us against an unforeseen astronomical increase, I guess. No, I need to work with Ray, because Ray does the insurance for the district, and come up with a number. And I'll work on that over the next week and see what I can come up with. But it may be an option that we could lower the IOD and use the funds to purchase an insurance policy, or some combination of lowered budget line item and increased insurance.
Well, if it's just rearranging the deck chairs, so to speak.
It more than likely is, yeah.
Well, if we get the insurance policy and it covers wages, depending on the cost, uh, and have a significant need in terms of IOD next year, it could well play to our advantage economically if they're paying out a substantial amount more than what the line item reduction is. I mean, if we reduce 25,000 and it costs, even if it costs all 25 for this additional insurance policy, it's very imaginable that in a year like we just had, they would end up paying in wage coverage a heck of a lot more than the 25,000 premium. But we need to look at the specific numbers and what the premium
Yeah,
would be.
I think we need to have those numbers. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's an interesting insurance product.
So I think it is, I agree with all of you. It's a good conversation to have, but we're kind of having a conversation in the dark. So I think we do have to get those numbers to have the conversation.
Okay, so Chief, you'll be able to maybe do some numbers research for us over the next week.
I'll get the numbers, but I wouldn't expect the product to be inexpensive. They're going to want to know what our IOD have been, and when I tell them it was whatever it was last year, close to $200,000, the product's not going to be inexpensive. But I will find out, and we'll put some numbers together and see if there's another reasonable alternative.
Well,
barring
it is
that,
very likely their underwriters are going to look at the past 5-year
right.
projections rather than just a single year.
More than likely, you're right. Yeah, and we've had a few, 0 years or close to it. So,
Right. So I think it's worth exploring what the
Absolutely.
projected
Yep.
premium would be, but that premium would be for the entire district. Am I correct? It's a district-wide policy, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm not 100% sure, honestly. It may or may not be. I'll find that out.
Okay, because I do believe that our health insurance policy is blanket for the district. So
It is.
water department and finance are all covered under it. But okay, let's go forward with that examination as a
Okay.
possibility. My inclination in terms of the presentation at annual meeting is to leave the requests that we had formulated earlier in the proposal with the option to withdraw them at the meeting in reaction to whatever the current financial circumstance is, rather than taking them off the table in advance. And I'm very much thinking about your comment, Adam, about the optics. We will be presenting, presumably, at a civic association meeting ahead of the district meeting. And I would like the opportunity to speak to those things and what our options are and our willingness to take it off the table, depending on the financial circumstances at the time.
Yeah, no, I think as an approach, that's fine. It's however you get to the optics, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
is that's a fine. Mechanically, that's a great approach, because I do think that we need to be prepared for that.
Right, I agree. Kevin, you on board with this?
I am. I actually had. I think I got missed in there. So yes, I agree wholeheartedly with the idea.
Great.
Strategy.
Okay. Do we have anything else under budget planning that either of you wanted to bring up?
No.
Okay. The last item on the agenda was the evaluation of the chief over the past year. Are you both prepared to make some to address that tonight?
Well, I was going to, when we talked about this last time, the thought was that we would get together, Chief. And, I guess unless we do that in some sort of social distance way, I haven't had a chance to do that. So I'm not terribly prepared.
Kevin?
Nor I. The chief and I have not formally met to have that conversation.
Okay, I would suggest then that we postpone this to the May meeting and ask you both to make some kind of arrangements with the chief, either by phone or Zoom or at an appropriate physical distance to go over these with him.
Chief, I'll send you a link to a video call service that I use, so we don't have to use the Zoom thing from the district. We'll try to. I'll try to get on your schedule. That
Okay.
okay?
Sure.
All right. Any other business?
None.
In the absence of any other business, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
in favor, Pisano.
Zace. All right.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Chief,
Thank you.
take care, stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Okay. Yep.